All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Jitsi Community Poll. It has been about a month since last time, I believe. It was Labor Day weekend last time, so we didn't. We had to skip one. It's good to see you all again. So since then, we've shipped a bunch of fixes on large conferences. Maybe Boris will talk a little bit about that, or Damien. Oh, Damien couldn't make it. And there has been especially progress on the mobile support for large conferences. And we have other things ongoing as well, but I'm just going to let the team talk about them. So yeah, who would like to give a little bit of an overview of the changes they worked on? Jaya, Boris, Jonathan, George.
I can actually mention about the mobile pagination.
Yes,
yeah, so basically we did very good progress with 500 people for mobile, as you said. Basically the main change there is that we implemented the pagination for the film strip for mobile as well. So again, visually you shouldn't notice any differences. The main difference is that the invisible thumbnails on the scroll are not rendered again, like the mobile one. I also know, I'm not sure if Saul is here, but he did some more optimization work there for mobile. If I recall correctly, he reduced the logging because that turned out to hurt mobile performance, and he was doing some other optimizations related to the time to join the meeting and so on.
Didn't we switch to WebSocket also in the mobile app? I thought that was one of the changes we did.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe
yeah. Well,
will
if we
better.
didn't, maybe it hasn't shipped yet, but that's definitely coming as well. So that might be relevant to folks here. So Bosch might become obsolete, and we would end up completely depending on WebSocket. Now, I think we maybe still support Bosch, but even that might actually fold at some point. So just a heads up. Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, Krista. Did you have anything else?
Not really. I think that are the main stuff that changed. Other than that, we did various fixes on the pagination and performance stuff. But yeah, those are kind of small fixes here and there that we are noticing some issues. Nothing major. Yeah, I think that's all for me.
All right.
I can talk about the reordering of the thumbnails that we did in the UI. Please. So in order to make it easier to find participants and make the interesting parties available on the first page, we've done some reordering of the thumbnails. Like, you would now see the local participant as the first tile that is on the top left corner. You'll see yourself over there, and then followed by any screen shares or video shares, like the YouTube shares in the conference, and then followed by the active speakers sorted alphabetically, and then the rest of the users in the call sorted alphabetically. So yeah, it's been on Jitsi for like the last three weeks, I believe. And in this call, you would see that everybody is alphabetically sorted now. So it makes it easier for users to find participants and pin them. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jaya.
I can talk
about anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
About the performance optimizations and a few fixes we did. I'm not sure how much we reported last week, so I may repeat some things, but as optimizations for large conferences, we did a few things. One is encoding the sources as JSON instead of the standard Jingo format. This significantly reduces the traffic that goes through prosody in terms of number of bytes. We fixed some inconsistencies with source add, source remove, and we also just added another feature that is merged in master but is behind the flag, and we're currently testing it, which batches source add messages based on the conference size. So in a large conference, when a lot of people are joining together or in a small amount of time, instead of sending multiple messages, we signal them together, reducing the number of messages, and again reducing traffic to prosody. In the testing environment, this had a huge impact, and we have it enabled on beta right now. We'll be testing it and probably enabling it on Jitsi with the next release. There were a few fixes. Damien from Renator discovered that TCC is not signaled, sorry, REMB is not signaled to Firefox endpoints. And this was a bug in Gcofo, which is now fixed in master. I think Jonathan can talk more about VP9 fixes and fixes in the bridge.
When did we do the REMB fix, Boris?
Just late last week.
Gotcha. It's currently deployed here, right? Or we're deploying it today here, correct?
I am
Something
not
like
sure. I can check in a few minutes.
All right, thank you.
Another notable change was a fix in bandwidth allocation, which, so we were making decisions to reallocate bandwidth anytime when the estimate changed. And this resulted in some, what's the word, instability in the set of endpoints that are chosen. So to the user, this shows as flickering between different sets of videos. So you would see a video appear and then disappear and come back. And we have an improvement for this. We just don't make the decision as often. So it's still not perfect. I don't believe it can be perfect, but it is a good improvement. And if you were seeing flickering, especially in low bandwidth scenarios before, this should be reduced. This, I'm pretty sure this is now on Jitsi. I think there's been a couple of more fixes. Jonathan, would you like to talk about them?
Yeah, we had an issue where there were some memory leaks or object leaks in the bridge, which could result in a case where you got CPU usage without very much load, because basically most of the Java heap was wasted and it was spending all its time garbage collection trying to get the small amount of memory free. So that should be fixed. I know there was some discussion of that on the community. So if you were seeing that, there's some other VP9 fixes, particularly involving the case where you have to switch back from switch between VP9 and VP8. If a Firefox user joins the call, there were some issues like when you switch back to VP9 when things wouldn't get done. Though we found some more bugs which should be landed soon, involving Firefox signaling of simulcast layers, that should land the next day or so. That's all I can think of offhand, but maybe I'm forgetting something because we haven't had a call in a month. And a month's a long time these days.
And Emil, to answer your question, the fix for REMB on Firefox is not yet deployed on Jitsi.
We also discovered there's a bug in the current release version of Firefox, which we reported to Firefox, and we fixed in the next one where their retransmission sources weren't being signaled properly. So If you're seeing other issues with that, particularly it'll show up as packet received for unknown SSRC messages spewing in your logs. Check the current Firefox beta, see if that problem still happens. And that should be released relatively soon, I think.
Okay.
Oh, there was
Thank you.
also an update to Smack, Jonathan.
Yeah, we've updated because of the latest version of Smack. Hopefully, this shouldn't have any behavioral changes on anybody. But if you see anything, let us know in the community. And so we should be able to keep that up to date much more easily going forward, which should, make sure we get any security fixes they have or whatnot. Though I don't know of any security issues in the version that we updated from, so it's mostly just cleanliness, and also fixes some issues where things weren't getting logged properly if you have the XMPP logging turned off.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. This was a great update. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, actually, yeah. Boris mentions one thing. There was we have logic that treats source allocation for screen share different from live video, but previously that wasn't getting propagated if you have multiple bridges using Octo, and that should be fixed now too. I'm not positive whether that's hit stable yet, but it's in master. So you should see consistent behavior whether the source is local or remote now once that's in.
Hasn't hit me Jitsi quite yet. I'll just check.
Okay. Opening the microphone to comments and questions from the floor.
Hi. No one's
Hi,
going to
Hagai.
jump in. Then I have some. Hi, Emil. Hi, everyone. So I wanted to ask about CPU and precisely how that scales, as in how much is used according to how many people are in the room. CPU on the server side. Is there any stats about that? Because we've seen nothing reliable when we tried like going up, like doubling the amount, then we didn't see a double in the CPU. We just saw a little bit going up, but not a consistent. Yeah.
This is a hard question to answer because there's different variables. First of all, we have different server components, and you will see different load on the bridges versus the signaling machine. I don't know what you're using in your environment, whether you're running them all in one machine, or I don't know what your environment looks like.
Yeah, we're one Jitsi server. That was a test on one machine. Mm-hmm. And we only had 2 rooms, or 3 rooms, 3 rooms with 10 people or 15 people, depending on what we were testing. But not a huge test. We were just wondering if there's anything that someone can say, okay, if you have this amount, then you get this amount of CPU usage, or is that just
right
black magic?
I don't want to say it's black magic, but it is hard to understand. So it depends on the conference size. It grows with the conference size, but not linearly. It depends on how many people have video enabled, how many people are muted, things like this. In general, if you're testing with one conference of a certain size, you go from one conference to 2 conferences and they're the same, you should see the doubling of CPU use. But that's pretty much the only one that is easy to answer. We monitor our systems in production and scale them as needed. and even there, the numbers, like we have on different environments, we see slightly different characteristics because of possibly the number of people with video and so on. So I'm sorry, but I don't have a good answer here. Maybe others who have better suggestions.
I mean, for me, that's a great answer. So, I mean, also an answer saying that we don't know everything is great for us. So thanks.
Also, okay, one more thing is the scaling characteristics of the bridge versus the signaling are quite different. Meaning with the types of machines we use, we need, I'm not sure the exact number, but somewhere around 10 to 15 bridges to serve one signaling machine. So if you're hitting the limit and trying to scale, you're better off scaling with multiple bridges rather than just adding more machines that have both bridges and signaling.
Okay, thanks. I have a question regarding, we kind of realized that 20 to 30, a difference of 20 to 30% between that and real life testing. Is this something that you also noticed, or is it just something that we didn't configure properly maybe, or something like that?
I don't understand the difference between the two cases. What is real life versus your test, and what is the 38% difference?
So we tried testing torture and putting 10 users, and then testing in real life and putting 10 users, and we noticed that at least the CPU is acting completely different, as in 10 to 20% higher CPU in a real life scenario, as in real users going in and clicking around. I understand it's different when you're on tile view, then you probably send more and stuff like that, but I was just trying to like understand how to use maybe torture better, or just know if it's even possible to use it better and simulate a real life situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've directly compared the way you describe, but I expect torture to be pretty close to real life. It runs Chrome with a realistic video feed. It might be because with torture, all of the participants are in tile view, I believe. I don't know what.
Yeah, there's a flag to tell the torture to emulate stage view if you want, but it's not by default. By default is tile view. So if you're testing with people in stage view, you might want to hit that flag in the torture test.
Okay, that's good to know.
And
Thanks.
I would encourage you to join the test conference to make sure that they're all working as expected, at least initially.
What do you mean, the test conference?
You can run torture, and it goes to, unless you change it, it goes to a room named load test 0, and you can just point your browser there and you should see them all.
Okay, that's useful to know. Thanks.
Hi, I have a few questions. Anybody hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. All right. So there is an issue that I've been kind of tracking, of course, versions that still appears to be unresolved for me, at least with the unstable that I've tested with. And I brought this up, I think, in the community. I've also brought it up in the call maybe once, and it doesn't appear to be at least it's probably something I'm not doing quite well, but it's not fixed yet for me. It has to do with the maximum number of tiles, full resolution participants. If I'm trying to change that from the default, which is 2, it appears to work quite well if I'm running this on VP8. But when I switch to VP9 with exact same settings, it's not quite doing it. And I've checked the values for the strings that are being requested. It shows that it's requesting with a masking, but it's not quite displaying that. Actually, maybe I should just share. Is it okay if I share a little snippet for what we're talking about?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Just a quick question. Let's see. We have like the worst. Oh, there you go. I'll never share with this. All right. Okay. Can you see that? Yes.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. So these are the settings that I have in my config. Right. I changed the max full resolution participants to 4, and then I also adjusted the minimum height for quality level. So I expect it to hit, at 360 height. I expect it to give me 720p resolution. When I set that away with VP8, if I have 2 of them, just 2 tiles, as you can see, it's fine. I'm getting some 720p resolution on VP8. Same thing if I go to 3 participants, it still gives me 720p resolution, which is what I expect it to do. And same thing if I go up to 4 participants, which is a maximum I set it at, I get 720p resolution. So with VP8 codec, it works just fine. When I switch to VP9, however, that's a different story. VP9, run 2 machines, I get 720 with 2. When I switch to 3, it immediately drops down to 360p, and then going to 4, it's the same thing. And nothing I have done, I've not been able to get it to give me 720p resolution at anything more than 2 participants. So I'm not quite sure. And again, like I said, I've tracked this across versions, and it appears that it's a persistent issue for me. I don't know if it's something that I need to do differently on my end. Sorry for that buzz. Something I need to do differently on my end to get the desired results. And just for, actually I should stop sharing. Yeah, so that is my first issue.
I'm certainly not able to answer that. I don't know if anyone else here wants to provide an answer. Please speak up.
So I
Yeah,
think.
go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead, Jonathan. I was going to mention that. So from the client perspective, it's just that we're requesting for 720p, and it's the bridge that's probably not sending it. So.
Yeah, I don't know of anything per se on the bridge that, the logic that figures out what layers you have and the logic that decides which layer to send are separate, and the second part should be identical across, independent of codec. So I don't know. I can't, we don't use this mode ourselves, and I haven't seen this. I'd say either, if you haven't already posted about this in the community, do so, and we can discuss it there, and we can probably try to get additional logging information from you to try to maybe figure out what's going on. That's probably the best bet, to just open a thread there in the community.
Okay. I did post it in the community.
Okay, so if you could point me at that, just, at me there, and I'll take a look.
All right. So that'll be great. The other question I had, I'm sorry. The other question I was going to ask has to do around the lobby feature. Again, this is another persistent thing, and I don't know if a decision was made about this at some point, and I'm just not aware of it. But this has been an issue or concern. When you have the lobby feature turned on, obviously by the moderator, at least the hosting moderator, and for some reason that moderator gets kicked out of a meeting for any of several reasons, if they can't get back into the meeting if there's no other person in that meeting with moderator rights to let them in. What we have done to get around that issue has been to just always set a password when you enable lobby feature as a moderator, particularly if you're the sole moderator in the meeting. That way, if anything happens, including you just getting kicked out of your meeting for whatever reason, you can re-enter the meeting using your password. What I have noticed doing that, though, and I don't know, I haven't tested this lately, so I can't say for a fact if that has changed. But what I noticed when I did test it back then was that when you do come back in using the password, if you had people who were waiting, for instance, to be allowed into the meeting prior to you getting kicked out, you still cannot let them in. For some reason, it seems as though that request is tied to the previous version, session or instance of the moderator status. Yeah, so I don't know if this is something, I know that it's been mentioned a number of times and we've, kind of worked around it, kind of hacky. I don't know if this is somewhere on the roadmap, like this is something that, we're looking to address, or if there are just limitations that pretty much just say, hey, this is what it is, and you just have to live with it.
I personally just had a call that I had to take, so I didn't hear the question. Is anyone else able to answer, or I might ask you to summarize it again?
You ignored me. All right. I say you ignored me. No, just messing with you. So the question was around the lobby feature. If you start a meeting and you enable the lobby feature as a moderator, particularly when you're the sole moderator in that meeting, if anything happens and you get disconnected from that meeting, you can't get back into the meeting because nobody else in there has moderator rights and the con.
Yeah. Yes. So the way that you have to solve this is we don't have anything within Jitsi that will let you solve that elegantly without any extra code. The way that we solve it at 8x8 is that we have plugins in Prosody that would give you default moderatorship if certain conditions are fulfilled, right? If, for example, we associate your identity from a JWT token with some set of users, for example, users who are associated with this space, for example, then we automatically elevate you to moderator. Now, the reason this is not in Jitsi Meet is because, there is no logic about identities, so there's nothing for us to compare you to.
Right.
And I would say that, well, actually, that's not true. The way that we solve it on Meet Jitsi is that, for example, if you create a moderated conference by going to moderated Jitsi Net, then you will be moderator on your way in. And that uses exactly the same logic, right? It puts you back in and you're already a moderator, and you will be able to go through the lobby.
Right.
So yeah, you want to play with that, and you want to give moderators a way to identify themselves somehow.
I see. So that basically means that using, our regular secure domain setup just can't do it for us.
Well, I don't know what your setup is.
What I'm saying just the regular, if you're not using JWT, like you just advised, or using the moderated setup, if I'm just implementing secure domain GCOFO, in the environment, and that means that the only workaround would be to do the password thing that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that kind of stems directly out of the way you ask your question, doesn't it? Because you're saying, I want certain people ideally, to be able to get back in. But then that means that you require the notion of certain people, right? You need to have some sort of identity, which means JWT.
Right.
So yeah, that yes, you do need JWT if you need identity.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a way to tie that to the role itself. Since if I implement secure domain, I have a moderator role, and if a person has that, if they have that role, I'm wondering if there's a, if it's possible just going off of that, tying to the role, they have have that.
I think that should work, and actually, Damien is the one who looked into that the most, and he's not here now.
Okay.
So you might want to ask the question on community, or just ask it again next time. But I think that should work if we know enough about you. Like, for example, if we know that you're coming from this domain and that domain is always moderator,
Right.
you should be able to get past the lobby.
Lobby, yeah.
But I don't know why it's not working for you, and I'm not able to give you more information. So again, either try community Jitsi.org or ask it again next time when Damien is here.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Anyone else?
This is
All
DJ.
right.
Sorry. Last question. So we are looking into the screen share feature, and we would really want to split it between the presenter and the screen share. I know this was discussed at some point in the community call. I just want to know where do we stand from the 8x8 team, at least, or from the community standpoint on this feature.
Okay. Please repeat the question. I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to repeat myself?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the question is about the screen share feature.
Yes.
We're interested in having a separate stream for the presenter and the screen share.
Yes.
And I know that this was discussed earlier. I just wanted to know where the community stands on this, and if we had to.
There is someone in the community that is currently working on this. Pavel is currently working on this, and I think Jaya was going to join hands with him in the near future, because there was some work necessary in the front end as well. So this is in the works. I don't know. I guess I'd be very surprised if it didn't materialize within the next 6 months. That is as specific as I think I can be, because there are various people with various deadlines involved. So it's harder to be more specific than that.
Okay, my team also is interested in contributing, and we are looking at the design right now. But you want us to reach out to Jaya to discuss this further?
Why don't we do this? Jaya, why don't you and Pavel present during the next community call what we're thinking of doing, and then we can have an open microphone discussion. We can see if there's any work that can be cut out for additional contributors.
Okay, sure, we can do that.
Does that work
thank
for
you
you?
very much. Yeah, that works for us, and I'll get my team involved in the community call too, so they know.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was the last we had.
Oh, Hagai has raised his hand again. So.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to ask about the local recording. I saw, I think 2 months ago, some commits and some config added for something experimental. So I'm just curious. Something's happening there.
What's that?
Local recording.
Yeah. But I was trying to remember in what context this came up recently, and why there were commits there. Who were the commits from?
Who? I don't remember that. Sorry.
Well, it's not something that's currently on our plate. I think there was a tangential discussion around something there, and we did have some local recording features were meant for audio podcasters that would make local recordings of everyone's audio, but only of the local audio, with the idea that they can then be sent to a central location. I don't believe we've done anything materially new there. So no, I'm afraid this still isn't a thing. Okay.
Do you think it would be difficult to implement such a thing, or is it?
Well, it would be difficult to do it right. It would be maybe moderately okay to difficult if you were to do it somewhat rapidly. Essentially, what you can do is, so what is possible is like essentially you can say, I'm just going to make it possible for me to record my local screen sharing session, including audio if there's audio in the screen.
Yeah, I've seen that on a fork.
And that's how Whereby, for example, implemented local recordings. Now, I think it's obviously it has various problems. First of all, you cannot with a straight face call this local recording. So, for example, Whereby tells you here's how you can record this meeting, and then they say go and share this exact tab. But obviously, if you share another tab, you're just recording the wrong tab and you're not recording the meeting. So I think it's more accurate to call this record your screen sharing session. So maybe that's good enough, but then the problem is that you're only able to get, well, actually, no, I guess you can get high frame rate now with the new APIs. Okay, so I guess if you're good with calling this, recording your screen share session, or at least having your users understand that they may end up recording something else, then it shouldn't be that difficult. And I think Chrome is actually adding these APIs where they'll give you an ID of the tab that is being shared, so you can actually even recognize that the user ultimately chose something else to share. So you might actually get even better control of that. So yeah, I guess it would be okay-ish, and that shouldn't be that difficult to do.
Yeah, I've seen this on a fork, and I think it won't be difficult to just take it from there. But I think the issue is the UI of the UX, or the user experience is just like, okay, why is Chrome telling me to share my screen if I'm actually trying to record?
Yes.
And that's something you can't get away. So you can't get away with that. So.
No, the only thing you can do to mitigate it is to try and explain, but it will feel shitty. That's why I'm saying probably the best way to get out of it is to not call it a recording of the meeting. You can call it record my screen share, and then you can tell your users, hey, here's the way you can record your screen by recording your screen share and sharing your meeting. That's probably.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's what I thought the case
not the
was.
Most elegant, but better than nothing, I suppose.
I was curious about the commits because I saw something and I was getting excited.
Wow.
But yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Thanks. I wanted to also ask about the muted. I saw.
Can do actually as well. No, that's probably. I don't know to what extent you can just whether it is possible to somehow throw a canvas over the entire meet and try and record that, but that means that everything has to be in that canvas. I don't know if that's possible at all. Maybe you can draw the React tree in something else as well and draw it twice, or what do I know? I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. It means that we need to just brainstorm a little bit and maybe figure out a better way to do it.
I mean, ultimately, the way Jitsi is working is doing a effective local recording off a fixed screen. So you could just, if you have something that can actually just capture your actual computer console.
Yeah, but the problem is that, well, actually, that's true. You could probably achieve that. So the thing with Jitsi is that you need something working outside of the browser tab, right? So maybe you can achieve this by an Electron build, and you can say, well, our rich client version has the ability to support local recordings as well.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. Yeah, that sounds really good. Thanks.
Just because we're on brainstorming, you could also try to record all the different media streams via a media recorder, which then doesn't preserve what the user is seeing on the screen. But I mean, just to throw in other alternatives.
Yeah, that's definitely an alternative. And the thing that would make me the most worried about it is that you would then essentially have to implement a new UX that restitches the streams into something that kind of looks like the meeting. So a lot of the logic that you have in Jitsi needs to lay out the different videos is going to have to be there. So that's actually what we used to have with our initial recordings, like 5 years ago with Chiricon, and we had the Jitsi post-processing thing, and we figured out very quickly that Jitsi post-processing actually ended up implementing every new feature that appeared in Jitsi Meet had to be duplicated in Jitsi post-processing so that the meeting recording could be presented in a meaningful way. But it's certainly, so for example, doing local recordings of the streams is something that is very valuable for, and we might actually do that at some point. It's very valuable for podcasting scenarios where, especially for video. I think for audio, given the quality of Opus, yeah, who cares? But for video, recording your local video stream and then uploading it non-real time somewhere, that's also a good thing.
But wouldn't it then make sense to have everyone kind of record their video stream locally?
Yes, absolutely. However, be aware that if you do that, again, you would have to restitch it. And in the case of podcasting, it's not a big deal because people do that anyway because they want to control the way it presents, and they only have to do that once per week, right? So they do it manually. But the other issue is also that you either have to do it very quickly, that is, you have to start uploading while the conference is ongoing, and that might compromise your available bandwidth, or you risk losing the whole thing, or at least interrupting the process. And even if you saved it in local storage, like the person then comes back, you have to restart it. It would be non-trivial to put it that way.
Yeah, sounds like a whole new project. But I did see on a different fork, I think, as well, that they kind of put it together in an HTML file. Didn't really test it that much, but could take a look at that again. I wanted to ask about the microphone having to be turned on even if you're using the config to say start audio muted, start with audio muted.
I don't know what that is.
I forgot the exact config, but when you tell Jitsi, I want to start without audio, the browser, if you're in an iframe, it still asks you to allow the permissions for the audio, because otherwise it won't be able to tell you that that you're trying to speak. So I understand where it's coming from.
Well, it's not only that. We also don't want you to, to have to do that when you're unmuting, right? When you unmute, we want you to be able to be ready to speak. And I guess, what is the use case for?
I have a very interesting use case. So imagine you're going into a website and you have like a chatbot or whatever. Then instead of having a chatbot, you're just going to have a real person who could just join you straight away, and you could hear them. But a lot of users are going to run away or click block and never understand how to even get back to the unblock of the muted, because they don't want to do that right the first time they join the landing page or whatever. And
yeah, I see.
If they see someone talking to them straight away and like, okay, hey, don't worry, I can't hear you, I can't see you, only you can see me, or only you can hear me. I'm not a bot, and I'm here to help you. If you want, you can unmute. Otherwise, you can also leave. It's a pretty live, or how do you say it? Like a really, really, really good customer service where you have people straight away there for you. But yeah.
Are you sure that this is going to be substantially less freaking out? If aren't more users just not going to distrust and say, "Oh, I'm sure they can see me," or rather, I'm not sure whether they really can't see me, so I'm just going to bail anyway.
Yeah. That's probably also dependent on the UX. I mean the UI. So I guess.
Yeah, but I understand. It makes sense. I was going to suggest that another way to do it would be to join view only, right? And you're not going to be able to hear them, but you can see them and they can type you messages, and then, you know, it's kind of it's not exactly what you're asking for, but it still puts one foot in and then asks.
What do you mean, view only?
So we do this view only mode. You can actually do it also with parameters, where you join without audio and you have video, you have no audio. In that case, we don't ask for permission for microphone, I don't think. But you don't hear anything either. So there's just there's no the media line is inactive for audio.
So they can't hear you either. That's the point.
They can't hear you. You can't hear them. There's no audio. There's just video. And in order to fix it, you have to rejoin. So, you know.
How would you rejoin in that case?
Well, you would,
like refresh.
If it's an iframe, you're just going to kill the iframe and do it again.
Interesting. Yeah, I was also thinking about just having like a button saying click here and then click here and, you know, accept the audio permissions or whatever. But it's a few steps, always a few steps more for the user, and that scares them away all the time. But yeah, cool. Thanks. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah. All right, yo. Thank you very much for joining, and see you again in 15 days. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See ya. Thanks.